Hello, everyone. And today we have one more AMA in our series. Hi, there's so many of you joining right away. My name is Maria. I'm Chief Marketing Officer of StealthEX, and I'm the usual host of these AMAs and interviews. And today I'm glad to have a co host with me here, who is David from Blogs. And it's Dave or David. I'm horrible with names. Could you introduce yourself so I don't do a really bad job?
Sure. They actually call me Ghost. My name in Discord is Ghost, so that's how most people refer to me. So thank you. I wonder if you could do me a favor. Can you also enable Calvin Waite,
Oh yeah,
who
sure. Of
is
course. I
here?
can see him here. Yeah. Hi,
Yeah,
Calvin.
Calvin is a founder of the Blocks token, and I am the senior advisor to the project. So thanks for having us. Happy to be here with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's exciting to have you both here. Hey, Calvin. Yeah, I didn't know that you would be here as well. This is awesome that both of you could join. And yeah, so we're just going to wait for a little bit. I'm just going to blabber a little about the format that we're going to have because just for everybody to know how we do things in here. So the first part will be kind of like light and easygoing. We'll have the questions that are from Twitter. So you guys have dropped us lots of questions for me to ask Ghost and Calvin, and whoever feels more comfortable answering them can answer from you two. And then we will move on to the live part. So like probably we'll have some live questions. We'll see how the time goes also. Are we any kind of like restricted by time, by the way? I usually ask it just not to like kind of occupy too much time.
Yeah, I think Calvin and I had put aside 1 hour for this.
Okay, sure. That sounds great. Okay, awesome. So you already introduced yourself, so I'm not going to be very boring. I like talking about stuff related to StealthEX probably. You can anyway check it on the website. We're an instant exchange supporting blogs, and we're very proud and happy to do so. And we're going to jump right into the projects and into the questions, obviously. So, are you guys ready? Can I start?
Please.
Go ahead.
Awesome. Great. So the first question will be about the DAO because obviously you're a decentralized autonomous organization, and it's interesting because you are actually the first DAO registered legally. So were there some problems or like hurdles in getting this achievement done?
Well, the initial challenges were that from a legal structure point of view, nothing had ever been done like this before, and nothing had ever been even thought of to be structured legally within the United States through the state of Wyoming. So one of the first things that we did was we had made the decision that instead of a white paper, which, as you know, a lot of projects put out white papers, but you can say anything in a white paper and not be held responsible to actually live up to it. So instead of a white paper, we actually put out publicly our legally binding operating agreement. So it's our operating agreement that's filed with the state of Wyoming, and it describes in detail how the DAO must work. And so it's not just promises that you make in a white paper, it's actually something that we're legally bound to follow to stay registered legally as a DAO within the United States of America. The only other thing that's been really, I wouldn't say challenging, but really interesting and fun and really impressive is you don't know who the community that you're going to get is, right? It's not just in a DAO, it's in every project that has active communities, and our community gathers in our Discord channel. And anyone who's listening who's not a member of our community, you're welcome to come in. You don't have to buy any tokens. You can come in and just come into our Discord server, which is listed on our website, blocks.io. And you can ask questions and the community will support you and give you their answers. But we were really fortunate. We ended up at our initial community happens to be the most amazing supportive group of people that any decentralized autonomous organization could possibly hope for. Um, we're going through what is called progressive decentralization, but we're getting to decentralization much more quickly than we even had thought or planned. And the community has, in a very short period of time, taken on the responsibility and roles beyond where we thought they would be. They vote for anything and everything that is meaningful. They have organized on their own subcommittees in marketing, operations, finance, and business development. They have volunteers that work tirelessly in all of those organizations. And we talk through everything in our DAO on Discord. So I would say those were some of the things that were part of setting it up. Challenges, everything's a challenge when you're doing something that's never been done before in the history of the world. But the best part of this, I think, for the founders and myself, has been that we got such an amazingly supportive community that they've done more than help, and their part in taking us towards complete decentralization.
And one thing that that was a part of the original setup, and I believe Ghost said this before, was that those legislators, they were doing the best they could to even craft the right legislation for this to even be possible. And I think there were times when Ghost went back to them and discussed solutions to things that they hadn't thought through completely. So not only were we the first, but we were also kind of instrumental in helping form that legislation to even make it possible.
That's amazing. Actually, that when you think about it, it's like the case that's like precedent. So somebody has to really go through it for others to kind of learn. And it's great that you could do this job and you could form all these paths for others to kind of follow if they want to, and just to have this case around. And you mentioned the community. Of course, the community is a big part of any project. And if especially if it's decentralized project, then it's super logical that the community is a big part of it. So we're going into the next question from Nadim Khan, and it says most of the project's success depends on the community and crucial partnerships. And as a community member, how can we contribute to your project? So what can community members do?
So the sky is kind of the limit. That's what's interesting about a DAO. Um, it's almost like a piece of software where you create a certain functionality, and you may or may not know exactly. You might have built it under the premise of solving a specific problem or using it under certain use cases. But then once the application is out in the world, suddenly people are solving problems that you didn't think of. So with the DAO, it was kind of this thing that we released out into the wild. We thought that we had certain use cases that we could bring forth, but as people have come on board and participated and put their voices out there, we've had new ideas, new implementations, partners that we couldn't have found on our own. Just a lot of, I mean, it's a motivated group that is economically in the same boat, rowing the same direction. We're all trying to increase value and onboard partners and do something. And now that there are 2,000 plus people doing, working for solutions to problems, all you have to do is jump in the DAO and where your expertise is. You can join a committee. You can help on board, give ideas, answer questions. It's a total community situation.
And on top of that, not only can you get involved in the community, but one of the really amazing things I thought about this project, and one of the reasons I wanted to get involved in this project out of the gate, was for those of you listening who are experienced in watching crypto projects grow, most projects talk about a utility, and it takes them years at best to actually have that utility working live in production somewhere. And because of some early partnership opportunities that we took advantage of before we even launched the DAO, we came out on the day that we launched with the token being used as a utility in two ways. One, obviously, in governance. And the first vote actually happened, I think, within 2 days, maybe 3 days of the launch. So there was an issue that came up, and we needed to bring it to the community, and they needed to make a decision, and they voted on it, and a decision was made, and the community had spoken. Additionally, we were being used in something that is a verification process by a publicly traded company that is a partner of ours called Verified by Blocks. And the first use case was to add an additional layer of verification to NFTs. You've all seen what's happened in the world of NFTs with fakes and non-authentic NFTs being floated out there as originals, and people getting scammed. And Verified by Blocks was something that was used the day of launch. We were in beta, and I would say within our first week in business as a DAO, there had already been 100 NFTs that were verified by Blocks. So it was really interesting because you have this two prongs of things to be excited about. One is the governance of the community and the fact that community members have the ability to get involved as much as they want to affect their own future in the success of a token that they bought into. And secondarily, the fact that we had a utility use case out of the gate, and those have just done nothing but grow since we came out.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, talking about utility, there are like a couple more questions about that if you started. It's mostly not about the tokens only, but generally about the blocks. So we have a question from Ordinary Use, I guess. If you're here, I'm sorry for pronouncing your your nickname like that. What problems are you trying to solve that are not being solved by other crypto projects? And what are the solutions that you have brought to solve this problem? So that's mostly talking about utility, I believe, and use cases.
So I think one of the interesting things about the Blocks token itself is that it is a token that we have created on purpose to be blockchain agnostic. So the DAO, looking for partners, looking to grow and build, we are trying to find companies and businesses that we can onboard to blockchain. Many projects out there, they create tech, or they just create a spin on existing tech and try to market it like crazy. And the use case is essentially a marketing plan, trying to get as many people talking about it or buying it, or they'll do different gamification to make their coin worth something more. Our community is actively looking for ways to give businesses a real application to blockchain. And we can kind of sit back and look across the spectrum of existing crypto projects and pick and choose from the best technology that will solve the problem best. So we launched on the Ethereum blockchain, but we have cross chains over to Polygon and XDAI, and now Binance Smart Chain, and the other one that escapes my mind. But we are creating this kind of super layer where we can take the right solution. If it's high throughput and needs low fees, we port over to the blockchain that accommodates that best. If it's more security and things like that, then we leave it with Ethereum, especially if price is not, if there's a decent margin available. So it kind of makes it unique because a lot of projects are trying to add new technology to the world, but we're trying to package that up in a useful manner and bring that to the public.
Thank you for the answer. And there will be a couple more questions in the live part because I see that people actually drop requests for the questions, and I'm just saying hold up for like several more minutes and we'll get there. And the next question will be from Tammy, who I saw here listening, and it's about the tokenization and the general kind of move towards tokenization of assets. And it goes, what areas of tokenization can you anticipate in the greatest growth in beyond the art world in the coming year?
Was that in the art world?
In the art world, yeah. I'm
Sure.
still
So,
recovering from COVID, so like my voice is not super great. Sorry for that.
no, you're good. So I mentioned verified by blocks, and verified by blocks, as I mentioned, the initial use case was for authenticating at an additional level, an extra layer of verification of originality. So if you think about how that might be applied to the art world, especially when art needs to be shipped from one place to another or transferred if it's not being picked up from point A to point B, just like anything in a supply chain, you'd want additional authentication to provide assurance of originality of what you're getting from when it left where it was to where it goes to where it is. So off the top of my head, Calvin might have some other ideas, but specifically to art, that's the easiest use case that I could think based on what we currently have.
Thanks. And there is one more question from CDM Trading, and it's about the price. I'm not sure that you're here to speculate on the price of the token, basically, because nobody really goes into that in the AMAs about how pumping things should work. But CDM Trading is interested to hear how you will get the price back near 0.03 in the next week. What do you have to say about that?
Well, we obviously anticipated some questions about that. We did just live through a rather unfortunate experience. What I can say is that our community reacted in the most unbelievable way. And when a tragedy happened, instead of running for the hills, the community rallied together and not only supported the project, rallied to put more of their actual energies into buying more tokens. As far as where the price will go and when, I think Calvin will expound on this a little bit. We feel very confident. What happened to our price has nothing to do with blocks itself. It was an inorganic attack, not on us, but on a third party that we had chosen to custodiate some of our tokens. They were custodiated in a smart contract that had been audited by Solidity, one of the world's largest token auditors, and we had been referred to them by the largest staking company in the world. So an unfortunate thing happened, but the fundamentals of the project haven't changed at all. The project still has all of the business development opportunities that we had 3 days ago. They're all in the same place. We have had several of the people that we're talking to, including government officials who took the opportunity of blocks having an inorganic low price to buy into the gold tier status that we have. And we've gotten nothing but support. So for me, if you take the price out of the equation, the fundamentals and the horizon for positivity of the project and success of the project hasn't changed. We've simply hit a bit of a setback that I feel very confident we will recover from, and I'm hopeful that it will be sooner than later. I don't know if you want to add to that, Calvin.
Absolutely. The funny thing is that our community has been working tirelessly for about 5 months. We have use cases that are out there. We have a blocks module, a builders module, and a GitHub where anyone can kind of pull down some use cases and actually put blocks into production at any time. But as a group, we've been working towards a simpler solution. So, for example, the Verified by Blocks product that Ghost has been mentioning, it's something that is really an awesome product, and certainly something that is very, very much needed. But what we want to do is create an API where businesses can just simply make a simple request and have all of that functioning happen without having to build anything or get too down into the weeds. And so we have a couple of really awesome use cases that we've been just waiting to have break free. And before this kind of surprise shock to our economy, we were in that situation where we're waiting for something to break loose and have price move all by itself. And I feel like we're still in that same holding pattern. We the first major application that we can really productize and commercialize on a larger scale, and we feel like price will take care of itself. So I've been working in the background, talking to those partners, making sure everyone's on board, and we're moving forward. I can't promise timeframes or price. You know, I'm not the one to fix that myself. It's going to take a community effort, but we are definitely hunting down the road to get there as fast as we can.
Thank you very much. That was a very reassuring kind of message out there for everybody who's interested in the price, obviously. And I can see that many people actually are requesting to ask something. So I believe that we will cut this first pre-selected part a little bit shorter and just go to the live section. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we have our first requested person, who is Nicholas, and I just gave you the rights and you can now speak after it's been connected. It's just loading. just hold up. Hello, Nicholas. You're muted now, but now you can speak and ask a question.
Should we move on to the next question?
Yeah, I believe that something is wrong. I'm not sure that Nicholas can hear us. That probably he can hear us, but we unfortunately cannot hear you. So we will move, I believe. Actually, there is one person that I have promised to give the right to speak, who's Tammy, because her question was misunderstood. So it would be great if you could do it again. Hello, Tammy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
we can hear you.
great. No, I just wanted to clarify my question from earlier. I was wondering, where do you feel would be outside of the art world, where do you feel is the potential for the greatest growth in the tokenization world in the year to come?
Yeah, that makes great sense. So I started, Tammy, to talk about supply chain. And I think that with all of the fraud that happens on a supply chain, especially with luxury goods, physical, actually, there are certain things that are being considered by the partner that we're working with that would actually enable moving on the blockchain into the, if you will, technological world, creating safer delivery of original goods to the recipient, And if you think about it, I always like to use the example that, when Rolex or Louis Vuitton, these are both products that are heavily ripped off, but even some of them fall off the back of a truck, as they say. But if there was a way that they could have their original products verified and registered on the blockchain, they would save hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in what it cost them through both fraud and originals that were not appropriately delivered to the source that they were intended to go to. So that's one use case. You can think of different things like, title and your titles on your house to originality. Especially, there are certain places in the world where they don't have the sophistication that we have to transfer property from party A to party B with the same type of legal rigor that we have in this country. In this case, you could add some ability from a transfer of any type of a property with the originality of the intention of that transition of the property to be authenticated on the blockchain. I don't know, Calvin, if you have others that you've thought of.
Yeah, I mean, there are just a lot of use cases. I mean, you have to kind of think about what an NFT is. An NFT is simply a string of code that represents a one of a kind or a unique code on a blockchain. So that code can represent anything. The first use cases were, I think, CryptoKitties sort of came out, and they created a digital a game where where a picture was an NFT, and then they had a game where you'd connect them and you could breed them and make new NFTs and whatnot. And then it went to this decentralized metaverse where each piece of land represented an NFT. But in the real world, everything that has a serial code, everything that has a barcode or um, some kind of UPC symbol, any of these things that they could all be put on a blockchain. The question is where's the application? If the application requires a bit of transparency and something where the database that is being housed in needs to be constant or immutable, where those numbers can't be changed or altered or manufactured by any third party, that's exactly what a blockchain is perfect for. So I think there are lots of applications in supply chain. I think there are applications in old-fashioned government databases. I think that they could be much more secure in putting something in an immutable, secure method. I know there's been the ideas of tokenized real estate or things like that could be possible using NFTs. There's a lot that can be done, but it kind of goes back to the software exists, and what will it actually be used for? Not what was intended for, but what will it be used for? And the market will kind of decide that. As a blocks community, we want to just have our antenna up so that when we start seeing use cases becoming popularized, that we can kind of get ahead of it and add to that market.
And I do know that there is ongoing efforts right now that are pretty far down the road at identification verification. And so there's a lot of use cases, as Calvin just mentioned, in government, where identification verification would be much more efficient on the blockchain. I mean, it's going to hurt the decades we've had of people being able to give their ideas to people who aren't of a drinking age so they can illegally go into a bar. But identification verification is another terrific use case for a verified by blocks beyond the art world.
So you anticipate probably identification is probably the greatest growth that's coming up next in the tokenization
I would
for.
I would say that there's a lot of parallel paths going on right now because of the ability to handle so many different use cases. But I can say that identification verification has been started, and there are conversations going on that our partner is having with different government organizations that seem to be progressing quite well and fairly rapidly.
Okay, thank you very, very much. I appreciate you guys' hard work.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for the
Thank,
question.
thank you for the question, Tammy. And sorry for, well, understanding it kind of wrong the first time. Moving on to the next speaker that we have here, and it will be Crosswind Analytics. I hope that we can connect well. Hello? Hello, Crosswind.
Okay, I'm
You can
sorry.
ask a question
I'm
now.
sorry. Am I on right now?
Oh,
I
hey.
apologize. I had it on mute. Thanks for taking my
No, everything's okay.
thanks for taking my question. Okay, so the 800-pound gorilla in the room, I think we really need to address it. I first want to just start off by saying I'm a huge block supporter, investor, as well as humble. But please, we need to this is an investment for most people. This isn't, a hobby. The people invest in tokens and coins as an investment. And when something like the data breach happens, it shakes people's confidence. And I don't believe we dove into exactly how it happened and how we can prevent that in the future. Like, there's a lot of why questions. Like, it's my understanding that there's about $1.2 million in blocks tokens that were lost, that were, stolen and then converted and sold. How do we prevent that in the future? Why was this not insured? We're relying on a third party, company, which I understand, but like, how do we prevent this from the future? Because you're asking the community to now keep putting money in. Everybody on this call, I can almost guarantee you, we're all, big blocks, big humble supporters. We'll go down with the ship. We've seen the ebbs and the flows, but to get new investment, that's the only way we're going to, raise the price of this token. And when you have a data breach like that, it's hard enough to buy these tokens for the layperson. You're just, how do you attract people? Because there's just so many questions. Plus, also it was, we were talking about like the value, like when's the value going to go up? Well, the value goes up when you get more people to buy in. That's how most tokens work. The more investors you get, the more people that buy in. That's how the value goes up. Well, we're so depressed right now, like around 75% down from where we were. That's a ton of more investment you need. And if we're not even addressing, there's a bunch of questions asked that weren't even related to that. And I think that is um, the most paramount issue here is, how do we secure this in the future? Why it happened? Why there was no insurance? And just all those whys. And I'm sorry about the long-winded answer. I want this to succeed because everybody wants it to succeed, but I just feel like it was maybe dodged a little bit. It's being dodged, and I don't think that's a good thing. Anyway, I'll be quiet.
Yeah, I don't think we meant to dodge it at all. And we're happy to answer every one of your questions, and they're all solid, valid questions. I'm going to let Calvin take first swing, and I'll jump in after him.
Yeah, we've kind of talked it through in the Discord, and we've had a couple of voice calls addressing everything. But to kind of back up and kind of take it from a fresh viewpoint, the challenge that the DAO had, even to begin, the DAO needed to have some sort of startup funds to hire lawyers, to be able to afford to fund a liquidity pool, This project wouldn't exist without the people that took a huge risk by being among those that it was this group of money we've been calling the pre-sale folks, but it's essentially people that we had to sell coins too early to raise funds to pay for the launch of this product completely. The main reason we decided to lock these coins in a smart contract was because, to my knowledge, time locks have existed for a long time. I heard people talking about time locks in Bitcoin back in 2012. So this didn't seem like a new or radical concept to me. And somebody that had created a smart contract that was audited by Solidity. In the crypto world, getting insurance on anything is almost impossible. But since this has been around for so long and it was audited by the most reputable company in crypto, Solidity even that's the programming language for Ethereum. There's just the idea of putting those there in that time lock to hold those coins for a year. It seemed like a no-brainer, and it was not the risk in doing that was extremely low in my mind. And I think if anyone had been given those basic facts and said, "Hey, let's use this solution for this," I don't think anyone would have batted an eye. And so, anyway, that long story short, they were locked up there. They've been waiting for until October for those to be released. So not only did they take a huge risk in buying tokens at the very beginning, before we had a community, before we had legal in place, before we had a product of any kind, now they're also so susceptible to a 1-year waiting period. So, we kind of owe these people for what they've done to get us off the ground. And now those coins were unlocked by a hacker that got into that smart contract. Everyone was surprised, and we immediately called the founder of the company that created this smart contract, and he was very obviously distraught, very surprised and upset. And I don't know, obviously, that if there's a, legally it was certainly his responsibility to perform the expected function of this contract that we had placed in that trust in his hands. But as a result, those coins were taken out and immediately dumped in a single cell into the market. To be honest, when this type of thing happens, usually the project is toast. Like, even though it was really no fault of the DAOs, no fault of any major wallet holders or anyone involved here, the outcome would have been the same. It would have been that the economy is wrecked, everyone's going to sell and exit. The reason that didn't happen was because our community understands that we are building something and that everyone has a stake in this. Everyone that's still a member of the DAO, they have to believe at some level that we can pull this off. And what does that look like? That looks like our partners delivering, new partners coming on board, community groups pulling their weight and pushing forward. The people that have a financial interest should also help in some way to push forward the mission of the DAO for expansion and growth. And all those fundamentals are still in place. we're we're building towards the catalyst that gets us to the next level. We were building towards that before this happened and building towards it after. The that all aside, I I can't help but see the execution of the original goal. The original goal was to create a decentralized organization. Before this event occurred, um, the distribution of coins across our community was very skewed. There were a lot of, there were only a handful of significant token holders, and the founders and advisors had a significant stake as compared to the rest of the community. And no one would have asked for this to happen, but I am looking at the current distribution of coins held, and there are hundreds of people that have more than 1 million tokens. And suddenly, this community is decentralized, and the people that believe the most in the project uh, have a louder voice, louder than founders and advisors. And so uh, the DAO, from a distribution and decentralization standpoint, is actually healthier than it's ever been. Even though this was a tragedy, and nobody wants to see the value drop so far.
Can,
But
can I
my
can I jump in real quick and just say something? I agree with
Sure.
you. Nobody's questioning that. And I believe this is just my opinion. And trust me, I'm a huge supporter and holder. I'm only saying this because it's just it's a little frustrating in that the only way we're going to gain share value is with creating more shareholders, more token holders. And there's projects out there that have, anti-whale dumping traps in there, that have other written software in the background that prevent, that just help with the security. Everyone has security on their, I'm sorry, insurance on their cars. Everyone has insurance on their houses for tragic things that happen. So I'm not questioning the commitment of the team, you and Calvin, and even the commitment of everyone who's involved. But the numbers are right around 2,000 holders, and they're really not growing leaps and bounds like normal tokens because we're not on a bunch of exchanges, and for a lot of reasons. But no one's going to buy into a token that doesn't have um, uh, insurances that if they're putting their hard-earned money in, something like this can't happen next week. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying
Yeah.
is maybe the team can, create mechanisms to trap these in the background.
Sure,
Right.
and
I
so I'm
understand.
sure, and I'm sure you're aware. You sound like you've been in crypto for a bit. I'm sure you're aware that unfortunately we're not the first project that has been hit by something like this. When it usually happens, it's usually that somebody found a vulnerability in a project's token. That did not happen here. Or somebody found vulnerability in a project's treasury, and that did not happen here. Unfortunately, this has happened to Bitcoin. They've been hacked. It happened to Ethereum. They have been hacked. It has happened to Litecoin. They have been hacked. We put uh, all of the guardrails that we could possibly think of in line, and we should have been protected. But unfortunately, in crypto, you do run the risk of, with everything being out on the public ledger, that is the blockchain, there is the opportunity to be able to find deficiencies in certain code and to exploit those deficiencies. And unfortunately, that was the case here. Fortunately, it was not our token that has deficiencies. It was not our treasury that has deficiencies. Calvin touched on it a little bit. I'll go into it a little bit further. Why did we do this? As Calvin said, the folks who are being called pre-sales put the money in because we needed the money to launch a project. That's not unusual. You're well aware that that happens all the time. We needed to make the decision, how do we protect those people? And you can think, well, how hard is that? Why don't you just keep them in treasury? Your treasury is so safe, keep them in treasury. But in thinking through the hundreds of what if scenarios that we were thinking through and setting up the project, one of the thoughts came to mind, and I'm sure you all are aware of this. You don't know what kind of community you're going to end up with. Are they going to be a good, ethical community or not? And you can end up with either. So it was our responsibility on behalf of those folks who had put the money in so we could launch the project, to think through all scenarios, including what if we ended up with a community that was nothing but self-serving, wasn't there for the good of the community, only was there as traders, and what if, when time to distribute those tokens, the community voted and said, nope, not going to give them to you. So we wanted to take that out of the equation. And I went to Ferrum, the staking company, explained what we were looking for. They said that they were not doing that anymore, and they pointed me towards Revest. And looked at it, did all the due diligence in the world we could do, had our lead developer looked at it. It looked good to everyone. It would have looked good to anyone. The due diligence was done. It was done thoroughly, and then this happened. What can we do in the future was one of your questions. Well, what we couldn't have done out of the gate, because we didn't have a community, we didn't know what kind of community we would have, is we are probably, I think in the next week, maybe week and a half, moving to a multi-sig wallet where the community will be given through the finance community and the chair of that committee, the first multi-sig wallet. And we will obviously, like all projects do when they're heading towards decentralization, put those multi-sigs more in the hands of the community than in the hands of the founders. That is one way that will be incredibly productive to make sure that this cannot happen again in a multi-sig wallet solution fashion. We now know our community well enough that we know that they have the ethicality, the people who have risen as community leaders. We know their backgrounds, we know where they come from. They have acted with pure responsibility, and there will be safeguards, as in all multi-sig wallets, put into place to make sure if one or two of them jump off the ranch, the others will make sure that nothing goes wrong as far as movement of tokens in the future. Hindsight is always fantastic. It makes us all geniuses. I'll take, a lot of responsibility. I was heavily involved in structuring this community, this DAO, and safeguarding everything I could possibly think of. And up until this event happened, I was patting myself on the back because I apparently got 99 out of 100 things right. But you know what? That one thing, even though everyone's telling me I couldn't have foreseen it, the fact is it didn't get that right. And we had the incident happen that happened. We can't go back in time. That's not a possibility. What we can do is forge forward. The only thing I'm going to say is, you said the only way a token price goes up is if more people buy it by buying into the community. And you're only partially right, with all due respect. The other way it goes up is if the token is being used in utility by companies, business, industry, governments, where those folks who are utilizing blocks as part of a utility in their business or what they do on a day-to-day basis are in a position where they have to use blocks in a utility that's been created that causes them to have to buy blocks over and over and over again to fund that utility, and or in a program to burn blocks in a deflationary token manner, both of which are utilities that we are working on. So as Calvin was trying to say, what can happen and will happen, we feel very confident, is as one of these catalysts hits, and again, I'm not going to make any price predictions, it's irresponsible to do so. But me personally, I expect as utility cases come online and are being used in real time, more and more and more, 3 cents will be something that we all look at in our rearview mirror. Was this a setback? It was. Will we recover from it? I very strongly believe we will.
And the other part, the last part of your question is will this happen again? And Ghost did an awesome job addressing that. But the part of that question is there more exposure there? And the answer is no. That was the only smart contract that we had, and there's no more exposure to that method of attack. To expound more on the fun side of what Ghost is talking about, of how our coin can be increased. Imagine this. Imagine we do get our first use case. We have a company online that is on a monthly basis requiring blocks for an application. That that little bit of buy pressure as a percentage of the total market cap of the project is going to slowly inch price forward. As more partnerships come online and as we expand that, there's economic pressure there, and it's consistent because we're not dealing with people that are trying to get rich quick, and they're not trying to buy and flip the coin. We're trying to create a consistent demand. Even if it starts out small, that demand will slowly whittle away, because the idea that we've been floating around, and we still have to vote on these things, but let's say we get a use case where those coins are bought and burnt as a part of the process. What you've done is you've created a little bit of buying pressure without a subsequent selling pressure. Or even if it went back to treasury or something like that, it could be reused, or that it doesn't solve the total market situation. But if you could create a little bit of buying pressure where it was not accompanied by a subsequent selling pressure, that slow little economic move is kind of the golden ticket. And that's where I'm pushing from kind of an economic strategy standpoint on this project. The price can kind of do what it will based on holders and sentiment and people that believe in it or don't believe in it. But when we have some actual requirements for blocks where there's a buying pressure without selling pressure, it's purely a matter of time, and price will recover. That's just how that's how supply and demand works. So we
Okay.
have.
Yeah, thank you for. I'm taking up everyone's time, and I apologize, but those were excellent responses. I'm still a huge supporter. I think that's what everybody wanted to hear, and I appreciate you addressing that. I agree 100% with everything you're saying as far as the use case goes and the tokenomics, and very strong supporter. Thank you so much, and keep up the great work, guys.
Thank you very much for the question. Actually, I believe that everybody kind of wanted to address it at some point, and it's great that you had such a detailed question with such great answers. And we actually have time for only one more question because you said an hour, and we're going to stick to our schedule here. And I'm going to approve Sector Spider, who was there in requests. And that would be the last question for today. Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah, I think I can hear you. You called on Sector Spider, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're here.
Calvin and everybody else on the team here, thank you very much for having this. It's great to have you guys out here. I have a question. Calvin, can you guess what it is?
Surprise me.
Okay, New York State has blocks, has Humble Pay. I know Wire hasn't, but have your vendors and Humble Pay applied for a New York State bit license? If so, when did that happen? And have you gotten any feedback? If you did, have you got any feedback on timelines for that to come through?
So we can't really speak on behalf of any of our partners. Not 100% sure what they're doing. That bit license in New York sector, boy, I hated it when it came into birth. I hate it now. It makes New York very tricky and difficult. But New York had organized one of the first actual financial crypto kind of projects to address, early digital asset selling and regulatory guidance as well as oversight before any other state. I think the bit license is a bit absurd, but that's a personal opinion. I do know, obviously, that getting approval in certain states, Texas, New York, to a certain extent, California, Hawaii, can be a tricky subject. It is getting easier. The good news about our state sector, I assume you're from New York. That's
Yes,
where I've called home. That's where I've called home for a very long time. The good news is the mayor that New York City, which we'll all hopefully agree drives most of New York, our new mayor is very crypto friendly and very bullish on crypto. And I believe that he will have a significant voice in helping to ease some of the burden of being able to buy and sell crypto in the state of New York. We're certainly hopeful that any of our partners that are using blocks are either on their own or through partnerships looking to solve any states that are currently a roadblock in being able to buy ours or any cryptocurrency. I'm not 100% sure where they are. That would be a question, in this case, for our partner Humble, but I'm a bunch of smart guys over there. I'm sure they're doing everything they can to make sure that everything they do is accessible and available in not only every country in the world, but every state in our union.
Yeah, I've done quite a bit of research into the Department of Financial Services in New York State. I've talked to some, fairly, I guess, important people. We do know that there's a position open with the Department of State right now for somebody to review bit licenses. I did post that up on Twitter, I believe. I think I did a couple of days ago. If anybody wanted a job, it's like 117,000 or 177,000 a year, something like that. But obviously it's a tripping point. You live in New York, I live in New York. I'm down in Manhattan, a couple times a year. I live up in the Rochester area, but it's still New York, unfortunately. And we're all in this spot. But we do know that if we have an application in, and what I found out was it's not just the platforms that would use it and transfer it and sell it, but I think it is also, and I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an attorney and I'm not one of the most knowledgeable individuals on the topic, but I believe the cryptocurrency has to be okayed also. And I think that to show that is that, like, if you go to Coinbase or you go to Gemini, you'll find that you can buy these coins that are in New York State. It's available for you on those platforms. Then there's other coins that are not available, that are not on the platform, that you can't see on some of the other platforms. So I think, and this is conjecture here, I do believe blocks may have to put some sort of an application in for a bit license just for the blocks themselves to be passed, sold, held, and traded, along with each, and I did read this, each and every trading platform that utilizes those has to get a bit license also in New York State to be able to service New York State residents. So I was,
Yeah.
Obviously we're hoping to find some resolution here, and I hope the team's going to be on it as fast as they can.
Yeah, let me clarify some of that. All good points. Regulatory is kind of my thing, one of my strengths and skill sets. It's an interesting dichotomy, right? It's something that I've been raising my hand about and kicking and screaming. It's interesting that the SEC approved the IPO of Coinbase, and that the position, not only in New York State, but in the United States of America, is that almost all tokens that come out are securities until they're not. And what's interesting is that Coinbase lists all of the tokens that they list, which have not been cleared as not securities by the SEC, and yet they're out there freely trading on an exchange that was approved to go public by the SEC. So that's a bit conflictual as far as what the regulators have done in that area. As far as blocks needing to do anything to be registered, we don't. We are legally formed under the laws and legislations of the state of Wyoming. Anyone who wants to list us can. And as far as whether or not we're a security, please, I welcome you. Please go onto our website, go right into our Git book, and take a look. We have a 27-page opinion letter from a law firm in New York that uses the Howey test as the standard bearer for why blocks, in fact, is not a security token. And I can very comfortably say and confidently say that we are one of the, and I say less than a handful of projects in the last 2 years that has been able to get such an opinion letter out of the United States.
That's nice. Yeah, that's nice. Well, I guess it's up to the vendors and, the partners like at Humble to see if they can get that bit license. If not, I know we've got a lot of cryptocurrency lobbyists in Albany right now, this hour, lobbying hard and throwing big money at Albany, trying to get them to strip that bit license out or at least make it more palatable.
Yep, 100%.
Are you involved in any of that? Are we involved in any of that, or not that we really need to? We're busy.
No, we're not directly involved in that lobbying effort. There are some lobbyists that we know through the Blocks token project that we've spoken to who are involved in their states. One of those states currently is not New York. I certainly have been very active up and down Wall Street over the last many, many years and know people, and I am constantly individually lobbying. Hear you.
Lost you.
I'm sorry. I say I hear you, and I'm with you, and I think you and I are heavily aligned. And as we're up against the hour, I want to thank you for your question, and I hope it was answered satisfactorily.
I appreciate it. Get in touch with me sometime and maybe we can collaborate. I'll be back down in Manhattan in May. So, thanks again, all you guys, Calvin, Ghost, everybody that was involved here and including everybody that came and, that's an investor and a holder of blocks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this question as well. You kind of said my final words instead of me. Thanks for that. I'm just going to wrap it up because we're definitely out of time here. Are there any closing words that Calvin and Ghost would like to say to close this AMA session?
Yeah, I mean, as Ghost said earlier, you don't choose your community, and now that we've been out for about 5 months, and we are rocking and rolling, seeing the people that have stepped up, and I've made quite a few new friends that I wouldn't have if I wasn't a part of this community, and it's just really cool. It's nice to be a part of a community that is pushing forward and has a common goal. So I'm expecting to, as this latest bit of adversity hit us, and how incredible the community responded to that, it makes me feel like our DAO will get through all kinds of things, and really nothing can stop us from achieving the goals that we have set out to accomplish.
My only parting words are, I want to echo what Calvin said. I couldn't be more thankful for the community that has supported the project, supported the founders, supported me, the faith that has been put in all of us. We have that same faith now in our community, and it is at the very least equal, and it is pure, I would say, reciprocal respect. I respect our community so much, and they've shown us a great deal of respect. And my last words are, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Thank you very much. It seems really encouraging and strong, and I wish you the best of luck in your work. And just to remind everybody who joined us here today, actually there are a lot of people, and I'm super happy to see such strong and great community with questions, with participation, always great. That StealthEX is an exchange service that proudly supports blocks. So if you ever need instant swaps, you know where to find us. And thank you very much. Obviously, thanks Calvin and Ghost for joining us today, and thanks for all the amazing questions from the community. And this spaces also will be recorded, so tell your friends they can listen to it again if they have missed. And thank you. Hope everybody has great day, night, morning, wherever you are. And bye for now. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Thank you.